This box located underneath the chair contains the battery on one side, and there's a control box underneath it. In order to take it out, there's a couple of screws we have to take out, and the configuration of this will vary a little bit depending on whether you have the remote control to control the functions on the chair, or if you have the electric switches. In this video, we'll show you what both of them look like and how to take them out. This chair is configured with the electric switches, and that's what this little box does. The electric height switch goes in here. The electric tilt switch goes in here. You can see how everything is labeled. And this plug is a cable that connects back around into the control box underneath. The first step in replacing or removing the battery is to remove these two little screws, which are 2.5 millimeter hex keys. And before I do that, you can see how this little control knob, adjustment knob, gets in the way. This is what controls the width of the armrests. So I'm going to go ahead and take this out. And your chair may have a screw here instead of a control knob. It just depends on the configuration. I'll go ahead and remove these two little screws. One on the left side, and then we'll remove the one on the right side. And if you have a chair with a wired remote, you won't even have this box here. Instead, you just have the wired remote that will get plugged in one down here. So this is a step you won't have to do if you have the wired remote. To remove the box itself, the control box itself, we're going to go to this side of the chair and this side of the battery, and we remove this screw completely. And then on this side over here, we have two more screws that I can access now that this little control box is removed. I loosen those up just a little bit. And now I'll move this back over here, and the whole battery slides out. In this case, we have a little zip tie that's holding all these cables together to keep them neat. In order to remove this little control box, I'm going to take a pair of scissors, and I'm going to cut that off. Now, I can remove the battery. And then you can see on this side, we have various plugs plugged in, and everything is labeled. So this one on the right is the wired remote control if you have it. If you don't have the wired remote control, then it's the cable from this switch. This is the plug to power the chair. This would be the electric brake if you had an electric brake. The electric backrest if you had the electric backrest. This is the electric tilt, which this chair has, and then the electric height. In order to remove the battery, you have to unplug all of these cables. And one thing I'll show you is they're all color-coded. So this has a white band. That goes to white. This is the electric tilt, which is yellow. Yellow goes to yellow. This one is not labeled, but it's the only one that does not have a color. And then you have the small one for the plug. And now the battery is removed. The battery for the chair is located inside this box combination. The lower half is the battery. The upper half is a control box for the connectors. If you need to replace the battery, we'll send you a replacement battery, which looks like this, that you have to replace inside there. We'll show you how to open this up and take care of that. We also have a PDF on our website with instructions. First thing you need is a 2.5 millimeter hex key. If you look inside this part of the battery, there are 4 screws that we need to take out. When you're taking them out, Again, it's a 2.5 millimeter, and be careful not to strip the screws. If you do, there's no way to get this back open. I did not take these out before the video, so you get to watch me unscrew all 4 of them carefully. Now that we have all 4 of these loose, we need to open up, I'll call this the bottom compartment on here. And what I'm going to try to do is turn this over and catch the 4 screws. They may fall out on the table here a little bit. They actually stayed a little bit. And now I'm going to try to open up the top part. I'm actually going to use a screwdriver to try to open that up a little bit. I'm going to press down with the screwdriver and try to get that open. It does stick a little bit sometimes, but you can see it's coming off. Just a little bit of a seal on here. There was another screw that came out. And here is the battery inside. You can see it looks identical to this one. On the new battery, we have a couple of plastic covers on the leads. I'll go ahead and take those off. Over here, you can see we have a positive and a negative. I'll use the screwdriver. Just try to massage that off a little bit. Same thing on this side. And if this is the first time you've changed the battery, there's actually some glue or Velcro holding the battery in. So you have to pry it off. I'm going to try to do that and keep this orange separator in here. And then you can see the battery is removed and sits right over here. Put the new battery in. You're going to put it in the same way. I'll actually just take the old one here and put it back. I'm going to set it down in the middle. Still sticks a little bit from what was there before. I'll get these guys lined up. I take the positive, slide that on, take the negative, slide that on, and then go ahead and put the cover back on. If when you're doing this, sometimes the orange piece will come out. Let me cover this up. Sometimes on here, you can see the cables are coming through on the side. Just have to play with things a little bit and try to get these cables snug. Inside this little white border piece. Then I can close that up. I'm going to turn it upside down. And then I'm going to put the 4 screws back in and tighten it up. What can happen sometimes on the way is that this lower piece comes off. Everything is still in here, so you should be fine. In some cases, these pieces can slide out. You can see how this is kind of slid out a little bit. Just set them all in place. Put this on top, making sure everything is lined up. You can see on the back side here, it's not quite lined up yet. You just have to move things around, and you heard it click in place. Go back to our 2.5 millimeter. You put all 4 of these in, and then you've replaced the battery. You can go ahead and reinstall the battery control pack onto your chair. Here we're going to reinstall the battery control box after we had removed it. We didn't cut any of these zip ties along the side. If you had cut those off before, you needed to secure them back a little bit. You put the battery back down on here. All right, these screws are a little bit loose, so we're able to slide the battery back in. All these cables are in the same position they were before. Now we'll go ahead and try to plug the cables back in. This was the plug on this chair for the switch. It would also be the plug for your wired remote if you had that. Line it up and you push it in. And these can sometimes stick a little bit, so don't be afraid to push them in. Make sure they're insecure. This is the plug for the power plug to plug the chair in. Again, push it in, make sure it's pretty tight. Over here, we have our yellow plug, which is for the seat tilt. Got to get it lined up a little bit, then make sure you push it in all the way. And this is the white one for the electric seat height. Play with the zip ties here, make sure you have enough room. And then I push that in. And make sure these are snug and all the way in. Sometimes they get a little tight to push in and out, and you just have to put a little effort behind it. In some cases, to pull them out, we'll use a screwdriver. Now I'm going to go in and secure the battery on this side with this screw, which again was a 5 millimeter. Tighten that one up. Then we'll swing it around. We'll tighten up these 2 screws on this side. And then here, what I'm going to do is take another, these were zip tied on. Just the zip tie's purpose is just to keep these cables from snagging. So I'm going to take a zip tie. I'm going to put it behind here. I'll just cinch this up a little bit just to keep these cables from moving around too much. Now that we have these 2 screws tightened, we put the little control box back on. We have 2 little holes here. I'm going to take my little screws. Put it in the 2.5 millimeter. We'll tighten these up. Same thing on the other side. And again, if you have the wired remote, this is a step that you don't need to do because you won't have this little box. And that's all secure. And the last thing, we just want to make sure that these cables are tight and they don't come off. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to take a zip tie. And just try to secure these a little bit to keep those wires from moving. And now the battery and control box are back where they were. If this is a new battery or chair you haven't used in a few days, remember the battery has the automatic cutoff. So the next thing you'll do is plug the chair in for a few seconds, then unplug it, and then operate the chair and make sure everything is working. We have a PDF on our website that goes through these instructions as well.